GodEdians, and welcome back to GodEd. I hope that you've all had a wonderful and safe week. Let's start with today's lesson as we go to People of the Fields.
The Philistines ruled over the Israelites because the Israelites had done evil again. There was a man called Manoah. He and his wife had no children. An angel of the Lord appeared to his wife and told him that she was going to have a son. The boy was to be a Nazirite, set apart for God from birth. As a Nazirite, he was not to cut his hair, touch a dead body, nor drink any alcohol. He would begin the deliverance of Israel from the hands of the Philistines. The boy's name was Samson. Samson became one of the judges of Israel. Samson accomplished many great things in the mighty strength that was given to him. One story tells of a lion which came towards him. Samson was able to tear the lion apart with his bare hands. Sometime later, he came across the lion's carcass. In it had a swarm of bees and some honey, which he scooped out with his hands and ate it as he went along. Another story tells of the strength of Samson when he killed 1,000 Philistines with the jawbone of a donkey. The Philistines were most certainly scared of this man of great strength. One night Samson went to the Philistine city of Gaza. Samson is here, the people were told, so they waited for him at the city gates. But Samson took hold of the doors of the gate to their city, tore them loose, and carried them away. Sometime later, he fell in love with a woman named Delilah. The Philistine rulers came to her and asked her to find the secret of her strength. Each one promised her to pay her 1,100 pieces of silver if she could learn of Samson's secret. So Delilah asked Samson, "Tell me the secret of your strength." Samson began to tease Delilah. He said, "If they bind me with 7 thongs, that will never If they bind me with 7 thongs that were never dried, then I will be weak and be as another man." Delilah told the Philistine rulers what Samson had told her, and they brought 7 thongs. She bound up Samson while he slept. When Delilah called out, "The Philistines are upon you," Samson woke up, breaking the thongs easily. So his secret was not known. Delilah was upset. Samson had lied to her. She told him, "You have made a fool of me. Tell me how you can be tied." Samson thought he would tease Delilah again. He said, "If anyone binds me with new rope that had never been used, then I shall be weak and be as another man." So Delilah obtained new ropes and tied Samson up as tight as she could. Once more, she called, "The Philistines are upon you." Samson immediately broke the ropes on his arms as if they were a thread. So the secret of his strength was still not revealed. Delilah said to Samson, "Again you have made a fool of me and told me lies. Tell me how you can be tied." Then Samson came along close to Delilah and telling Delilah the truth. He should have been thinking of how careless he was becoming. Instead he said, If you weave the 7 braids of my head in the fabric of the loom, I'll become weak as another man." Once again Samson fell asleep. Delilah did as Samson had described. When she was done, Delilah called out before, "The Philistines are upon you." Samson jumped up, ready to take on the enemy. He pulled up the loom with the fabric. Delilah was getting desperate. Samson had still dared to lie to her. She pressed Samson more and more, day by day, to tell her his secret. "How can you say you love me if you won't tell me your secret?" she asked. Finally, Samson broke down and told her the truth about him, that he had been under the Nazirite vow from his birth, and so his hair had never been cut. If his hair were to be cut, he would lose the great strength God gave him. Samson surely was not thinking of the consequences of telling Delilah this. Had he forgotten how Delilah had already tested him? Delilah called for the Philistines to come one more time. They came bringing the money they had promised her. When Delilah saw Samson again, she made him feel very comfortable, and once again it was not long until he was fast asleep, this time his head on her lap. Samson was asleep so soundly that he did not hear Delilah call for the men to come and shave off the 7 locks of his hair. When the men had finished shaving Samson's head, Delilah called out, "The Philistines are upon you." Samson awoke thinking, "I will go out at another time before and shake myself free." He thought he would still be super strong. He did not realize that he had lost his God-given strength. The Philistines were all around Samson. He could do nothing to save himself. Quickly they captured him, put out his eyes, making him blind. He was taken to Gaza, where he was bound up in brass chains. He was put into a Philistine prison, where he was made to grind their grain. Samson, the mighty warrior, was now a slave. No doubt, while Samson was in prison, he had time to think of all that had happened to him. He probably thought of how foolish and unwise he had been. He must have regretted how his strong-willed and self-confident attitude had taken him away from the special work God had meant for him to do. As Samson spent time in prison thinking, something began to happen. Yes, Samson's hair started to grow again. Did the Philistines forget what the secret Samson's strength had been? Maybe they thought that as long as he was blind, he could not hurt them. Now, the capture of Samson was something to be celebrated, so they decided a special day to offer sacrifice to their God. On that day, many thousands of Philistines came to celebrate, which took place in the temple. The people wanted Samson to be brought out so that they could laugh at him and make fun of him. Samson was led out to the crowd by a young boy. Samson said to the boy, "Put me where I can feel the pillars that support the temple so that I may lean against them." Samson then prayed to God, "Lord God, remember me. Please strengthen me just one more time and let me get revenge on the Philistines for my 2 eyes." Samson may have felt that he was no longer worthy of life, yet God did honor his prayer and gave him great strength just one more time. Samson took a hold of the 2 middle pillars that supported the huge temple. He then pushed with all his might. The temple fell upon the rulers and the people who had gathered there that day. Samson killed more people that day than the rest of his life. Samson had judged Israel for 20 years. Although Samson had made many mistakes in his lifetime, he had still begun the rescue of Israel from the Philistines.
So, the story of Samson. I'm sure most of us know the story. And I'm wondering if you have any ideas on what you think the moral to the story is. Some people would say it's not to trust people that you don't know. Some people would say if he had been kinder to Delilah, maybe she wouldn't have sold him out. Some of us might go, he shouldn't have gone to the area with those people, the Philistines, anyway. If he had just stayed where he was supposed to stay, this would never have happened. And we can look at the story and we can go, well, this doesn't really apply to us because, well, we would never physically harm anybody else. Most of us wouldn't even think about bringing harm onto somebody else. But it made me think a little bit about, in modern context, what that would look like. And do you think maybe if you sent a horrible message to somebody else, it could be constituted as being mean and to being harmful to that person? Do you think that only physical harm is harmful? Or sometimes when there is cyberbullying, or when we send messages that we shouldn't send, or we've said horrible things behind people's backs, that should be constituted as what happened to Samson? When we ignore people's needs, when we exclude people from things? There is a lot going on in the story. There is a lot going on in their lives at the time. People will question why Delilah would even do that to Samson if Samson loved her. The question is Samson didn't necessarily trust her. but she wore him down towards the end. And there are a lot of things that we can look at in the story where we can blame people. But I want you to look at your own life. I want you to look at who you are in the story. Are you Samson, who trusts easily or doesn't trust easily, or finds himself around the wrong people? Are you Delilah, who saw potential to get paid and knew that you had to make a living and knew you had to live somewhere because you didn't have any other means to do it? And you were willing to sell out somebody who said that they loved you to do that? Are you the Philistines, who are so scared of this one person that you're willing to do anything to bring them down? And I want you to think about whether you are one of these people in the stories. For a lot of people, we're like the Philistines. We would rather bring people down around us than look at our own lives and go, well, why am I so scared of this person? We would rather say horrible things, spread rumors, be nasty, not want to speak to them, exclude them from things because we just don't like how they make us feel about ourselves. Sometimes, like Samson, we are willing to take big risks to have justifications and vindications at the end of the day. Whether Samson was right or wrong, whether Delilah was right or wrong, or whether Philistines are right or wrong, I don't think that's the point today. Today's point for this lesson is purely to understand how we play our role in the world around us, and how Jesus teaches us that we're supposed to be kind and good, and it's not about getting revenge. There is more to this world than just getting rid of a group of people because they've done something bad. There is forgiveness, there is compassion, there is caring, and we have to remember those things in our everyday lives. What happened to Samson was horrible. I mean, Samson had done some things that were not so nice either. We have to learn the lesson from the story. We need to examine our own lives and see what it is that we do in our everyday lives that can change, that can be better.
Morning, all you GodEdians. I'm really excited to see you this morning. I hope for those of you that are on holidays at the moment, you're enjoying having a break. And for those of you who are at school, back to school now and in-person learning, you're really having a great time seeing your friends and your teachers, and that you're all safe and well. For today's activities, because it is the Olympic Games currently happening in Tokyo, and because Samson was the original strongman, I thought it might be a fun idea to have the Samson Strongman Games. So this is something you can do with your brothers and sisters, or you could even do it against yourself if no one's home at the time, and you could do it over a couple of days. And what you need to do is just think of a few activities. So those could be like arm wrestling, tug of war, maybe how many push-ups you can do in a certain time, or sit-ups, or plank, or how high you can jump, anything that is a physical activity. And as I said, you can do it with your brothers and sisters, or maybe you can even ask mom or dad to compete with you, but I suspect you might have to give them a head start. And if you're doing it on your own, then maybe what you could do is time yourself and see if you get faster by the end of the week. So that's one option for what you could do for an activity this week, linked to our Bible lesson. And the second one is you could actually design your own board game. So very simply, how you could do that is you could get a piece of paper and you could make yourself a game board, and generally you would start in one corner and it would snake around over the board until you get to the finish. And what you'd need to do is you'd need to maybe draw some rectangles or some squares for the pieces to land on. And you could also have an area on the board where you could make some cards, some challenge cards, and those challenge cards could include maybe some Bible trivia. It could all be related to the story of Samson and Delilah, or you could do some multiple choice. You could do some memory verses like nothing is impossible with God. Which book of the Bible is that from? And then you would have Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and that one comes from Luke. So if you were playing, or you were playing with your brother and sister, and if they chose Luke, then they'd get to move on the board. So you can make your own game pieces if you wanted. Otherwise, we have these pieces at home from one of the stores, and I just chose these ones because they've got cute little each one has a different hairstyle, but you can make them out of clay if you had, or you could use chess pieces, or even just colored counters that you could make out of cardboard, or you could use bottle caps. And if you do decide to make a Samson game, a board game, or a Books of the Bible board game, please bring it into church when we're back at Sunday school. We would love to play it with you. We hope you have fun either with your strongman challenge or making a board game this week. And if it takes you all holiday to do it, that's perfect. We'd be really excited to hear how you're getting on with this activity. So as we heard in Yvette's lesson today, we are learning about Samson, and his strength lay in his hair. Before he was born, the angel came to his mum and told her that he could never cut his hair, and he could never drink wine, and then he would have amazing strength. So today I have a couple of craft ideas because it's holidays and I thought you might have a little bit of time, so I have a few that you can choose from. The first one is fairly simple, and I'm going to put these on the WhatsApp group. So this is just a paper with 9 different heads, and as I have a few crafts to show you today, I've gone ahead and I've done this one ahead of time, and you can just have a little bit of fun adding different hairstyles to the different people and really just be as creative as you want and make them as funny or as silly as you want, just to have a little bit of fun. That's the first idea. The second craft idea is this piece of paper, and really you can draw your own if you want. I'm sure yours will be far more creative than mine. It is just a piece of paper that is divided into 4, and it has the same face in each of the blocks. Now this is a bit of a pop art idea, and as you can see I also went ahead and I colored mine in because there wouldn't be time to do it all in this video. And what you do for a pop art inspired drawing is you color each of the blocks a different color, and then once again you can go ahead and you can add whichever hairstyles you want to each of the blocks. They can all be the same or they could all be different, and that would be a pop art Samson drawing. My next 2 craft ideas, or for those of you who don't really want to do a drawing or an artwork, I have 2 options. There's this template that you could fill in and color as you wanted or doodle on it, and this is my spiritual muscles. Now this just gives you a little bit of chance to go back and think about what Yvette was talking about this morning and think about ways in which you can flex your spiritual muscles. So by that I'm talking about praying, going to church, reading your Bible, just jotting down a few ideas on this about how you could strengthen your spiritual muscles. The second one of those is a little bit different. It's more like bullet journaling, and this you can write down some different ideas, once again how you can flex your spiritual muscles, but you can also think about how God can use you and the talents you have to make a difference. So not all of us have super strength like Samson, but we have many talents, each and every one of us, and we can use them in different ways if we're willing to let God use us. And then the last option we have for a craft is a little bit more creative, and it's going to take a little bit more time. And essentially what you're going to do is you are going to make a bit of a 3D artwork, which you can make. Just draw yourself the shape of a face. It doesn't need to be fancy, because the aim of this artwork is more the hair that you're going to be able to create. So just drawing a quick little face, and what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to add some 3D hair. So some ideas on how you could do that would be with some craft string or pipe cleaner. And what you can do is you can just take it and you can wrap it around a pen or a pencil, any sort of tube, and you can see when you take it off, it's like curly hair. And then you can go ahead, once you've made a few of them, and attach them to your drawing in that way. If you had a few pipe cleaners, alternatively you could use some wool and cut it into pieces and tie it, that you could make hair. Or if you had some ribbon, you could snip it into a few pieces and make sure that you're allowed to use the scissors, or they're your safety scissors, and then you can just make it curly like that, and you can attach it onto your artwork. And lastly, if you don't have any wool or ribbon at home, you could even take a paper bag, and if you cut it down the bottom like that, and then you can actually cut into it, and you can make yourself some hair. So as most of you are on holiday at the moment and you have just a little bit extra time on your hands, you can be as creative as you want with today's crafts, or you could do a few of them, or you could do a few options of them and just have a little bit of fun. So those are our crafts for this lesson. Bye!
A big thank you to Marcella for putting together that video for us today. I hope you enjoyed the activity. We'd love to see what you've done. So if you want to send it to me on Instagram, that would be fabulous. Would love that. And there are some other physical activities that you can take a look at in the curriculum if you want to go and do something else because you're bored. With that, let us do the blessing. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. And may the Lord give you his peace. Amen. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, everybody. And we'll see you all next week.